you know, at the age of 15, I was I was doing athletics and doing all these things in my life, and I was having some degree of success in the physical world I was in, and you know, school like any other student, I was kind of like, you know, at 15, you know, you sort of get to that point where you're going to make choices in your life, and my mother asked me to go and watch a play with her at the local theatre, and I said, "Nah, Mum, I'm not going to come. I'm going to go to the movies with my friends." It's funny because I was going to go see a film and she was going to go see theatre. And it's funny how now what I do, that was the sort of the activity of that day. And I got to the cinema and I was in line with my friends, and I suddenly had this feeling that I had to go to my mother. And I was standing in line, ready to go buy a ticket with my best friends to go to the movies, and I don't know what came over me besides divine intervention. And I took off, and I went to this theatre where my mother was, and the guy, it had already started, and you know, if you go to a theatre when a play's already started, they don't let you in because they don't want the noise of the door opening and whatnot. And I pleaded with this guy to let me in. And when he opened the door up, I remember seeing my mother in the spotlight in the middle of the crowd. I saw the whole sort of oval shape of the audience. The light was on my mother. And I looked at her, and she looked around, she saw me, and she just smiled, you know. And I went down and sat beside her. Anyway, jumped forward about 2 hours. We were driving home, and a drunk driver came through a stop sign and hit our car. And my mother was killed. You know, yeah. And as a 15-year-old, it tore my heart out, you know. I mean, it just changed my life forever. But you know, I had a choice. You know, I mean, my academics at the time, I couldn't focus on mathematics or science. My academics just slipped, you know. And but I found this avenue in which to express myself as a human being through the arts. And I found it through dancing first, and I found it partly in music, and then something just challenged me to go to acting, you know, and somehow all of that storyline, you know, led me to Crixus. And you know, I had some contact sports and rugby as well at the time when I was struggling with all of that. And, you know, that was my way of letting out my internal sort of, conflict as well. But you know, Crixus was this incredibly broad character that could bring out so much of deep emotions, and then, you know, the sensitivity of love and tenderness, you know, and you know, those writers just basically gave me everything that I could hope for as an actor to express. It was like a wonderful piano piece that had all of the feeling to it, you know, and yeah, you know, I mean, in some way, in the full circle of life, I feel like I've been given this, you know, this path to follow, and it's been enriching, and you know, when people come up to me and they say, "Oh, we really felt Crixus," you know, I really felt him as well. You know, and I hope that that's what was part of that performance, that we all enjoyed together. And you know, I can sort of go, "Hey, Mum, you know, we're doing okay." You know, that's the truth of it.
Shush, very fast. Okay. So, from a dancer to like a warrior, how does that work?
Well, you know, I'm a Maori as well, you know. I mean, you know, I haven't spent my whole life kind of trying to just, you know, recover from a 15-year-old's tragedy, you know. I mean, you know, during my sort of 20s, I started going back to New Zealand. I was raised in Australia, but I started going back to New Zealand to sort of find out something about my culture. And, you know, some of the things that I found out about Maori culture, you know, fused from being warriors and having, you know, the haka that some of you might have seen us perform out the front there. You know, yeah, maybe a bit later. But, you know, to being a tribal people who after 4 generations are still fusing their way into the world and holding on to some of their culture and holding on to some of their spiritual beliefs as a people. you know, I mean, that cultural struggle that I'm aware of now, and I've become more aware of, and I've seen my own family history's lineage in that struggle as well, is another thing that sort of endears me to the idea that, you know, the art platform that I'm involved in, you know, whether it be through Spartacus and this sort of, you know, story of human equality, you know, that there's some sort of expression in this art form that, you know, being here in Dubai and seeing culture, you know, in a different country and knowing that somehow I'm part of this as well. I'm part of your mind space. You know? Somehow in my performance you smile at me and you see something of a Maori guy, you know, who's connecting with you on this kind of story bridge. You know, I mean, that's just, you know, that to me is the fulfilling part of what I do. You know, even though I'm playing Deathstroke in my next show, you know, I'm going to try to make Deathstroke a very memorable character as well. You know, I'm still waiting to see where the path leads to with my character. But you know, I mean, just to have the opportunity. Put it this way, I'm a Maori, and just have the opportunity as a Maori to be involved in this big world of filmmaking and television making. You know, it's a privilege and an honour for me to have got that opportunity. And you know, hopefully it reflects upon my younger folk of Maoris, you know, young Maoris back in New Zealand, you know, they're like, oh, Uncle Manu, geez, you're doing big jobs there in Hollywood now, aren't you? Yeah, you know, it's
so, last question from me before we open it up to the floor. If you want to ask Manu a question, there's the microphone. Make a little bit of a nice cue if you want to ask any question. Last question from me is, the phone rings, it could be any job in the world, any acting job in the world, any part, any director on the phone, who would it be, why? I'll put you on the spot there as well. I've not told you I was going to ask you that one.
You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of The Life of Pi. You know, so if Ang Lee had some human story that he was telling and even knew I existed, and having to ring up and say, Manu, you know, my next journey into the human heart is this project, I'd be like, oh, that would be my dream job, yeah.
I see you fitting into The Expendables or something like that, one of those rough and tough guy roles.
I've done plenty of them.
Okay. Alright, do we have any questions from the audience? There we go, this is the first one. Come and stand up and hello.
My name's Alia. There's a little scar next to your right eye.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
This scar was from the car accident I was in with my mother. I was thrown out of the side of the vehicle. I was thrown out of the vehicle as it spun around me. That scar's from that. A lot of people ask me that question. You know, they think it's makeup from Spartacus, but that's from my real life.
Hi, I just want to ask, how was it playing this villain in Arrow as Deathstroke? How did you feel being the bad guy? Because I know Deathstroke is going to be a bad guy.
Yeah, you know,
is it more fun to be the bad guy?
Look, I think that we live in an archetypal world where, you know, to some degree growing up in Australia and in New Zealand, I always knew there'd be a certain archetypal hero that I didn't quite match all the cultural necessities to be that hero, so they would put me as the next guy. And, you know, as long as Ang Lee and people like that continue to make movies, then maybe another young Maori guy who comes through in the future will be the hero. But, you know, at least I'm part of it. You know, at least I'm being part of the productivity. And, you know, even if I'm looked at as not the physical or cultural archetype for an American hero film, and I'm the guy who puts the left of him, at least I'm up there on the screen performing. In some way, if the archetypal difference starts to change through multicultural filmmaking, then you'll see a lot more, you know, ethnicities taking the lead role. Do you understand what I mean by that? And I don't mean that in any bias or any disregard to the people who make this film industry work, because they give me a great opportunity. But that's kind of some of the reality to it. But you know, also, you know, I've played some fairly strong characters, and you know, usually those strong characters, you know, the strength of my performance in those areas has sort of, it hasn't necessarily sort of stereotyped me, But you know, it demands that sort of performance, and they see that as part of my strength in my portfolios. But Arrow's a wonderful job, you know. It's taken me to live in Vancouver, Canada, which has been raining continuously for 3 months, but suddenly the sun's come out, so I'm learning something of the geography of the world in that opportunity.
What is this rain stuff you're talking about? Rain. What is rain? Anyone know here? We don't have that. We don't have that here. It's sunny.
My question was that do you think the trade-off for having Spartacus as an 18-plus action scenes and actions and scenes, or would you rather have it for more general audience?
Do you mean in terms of being pushed into a higher rating area?
No, I mean like more general. Like, so would you have it more general, the trade-off?
Well, the thing is, in Australia and several other countries, some of the Asian countries, it was we did censored versions of the show. So we'd go in and instead of Jupiter's come, excuse me, it'd be like Jupiter's hen. And some of them, as soon as the sword comes to the strike, they would edit it out, so there was no blood. So you know, it was like watching Jaws the movie and seeing the fin and never seeing the shark come out to attack. You know,
That the scenes are important for the story.
You know what? If what you're talking about is the graphics being something that's implemented by the producers to actually gain an audience and to use violence to compel an audience to watch, and whether that's part of cultural demand right now, if that's what you're saying, it is. And to some degree, it's answering to the demands of the audience, such as the gladiatorial world and the gladiators were called upon by the people in the arena. That's the juxtaposition of our show. The juxtaposition of our show is you could find yourself in the shoes of the gladiators, or you could find yourself in the arena watching and calling for blood. That's one of the very big truths of our show. And when it's studied, when people actually think about it more deeply like that, and then they put it into a modern context of how the world even operates today, I think you'll find that the show is actually, you know, much more culturally accurate than if it had been censored. I mean, you know, I don't think that topic is necessarily for young kids to mull over. It's something more definitely for adults to mull over, you know. You know, some people ask me about scenes where I stand naked in front of the camera. And I kind of thought to myself about, you know, times in the world where any culture has been persecuted. And I took the artistic decision and the personal decision and the human decision to be undignified, you know, to have my dignity taken away from me by the camera and what would appear to the audience, because I knew that was the statement. And I didn't think twice about it, you know. And, you know, if people found that impacting and went, whoa, you know. I mean, I know my nieces and nephews did. They're like, Uncle Manu. Don't worry, I'm just, you know, I'm paying homage to history. Yeah, right. You're just naked. Yeah.
As a screenwriter and a storyteller, I wanted to ask how you felt, if you found it difficult or challenging as an actor, to the fact that, you know, particularly Spartacus does not happen linearly. Like we see Crixus for the first time as, you know, the undefeated, you know, the great gladiator, etc., and such like that. And then the second series comes back to you becoming that person